So the subject I want to talk about, and I'm not sure really how to start it, but the idea I had to talk about was this sort of concept that there's different levels to lying. And so, there's like white lies that you tell to not hurt somebody else's feelings or remain socially, whatever the fuck. And then there's like sort of these, what you might consider harmless lies, like that you might say to sort of get out of something or not look stupid. Like, let's see, I have some examples. Some examples that people might say, like, let's say you were supposed to send somebody a document or some shit via email and you just forgot to send it. And then they asked you where it was and you were like, oh, I sent it, but it must have got bounced back or I was having technical problems. And you kind of make up some bullshit, to instead of saying, you know what, I forgot to send that. Let me get that over to you. Another really common one, like when you're late, you'll blame traffic. But the reality is you knew what time you had to leave, but you just didn't do it. And then you figured, oh, I'll just tell them there was a lot more traffic than expected. If you duck somebody's call, you say, oh, I didn't have my phone with me. All these kind of different things. I used to do this. I think all of us do it. I don't know. I can't really say, but I think it's more common than not that people do this kind of thing. And I used to do it as well. And it was around, I don't know, I'd say like 2010. I think I got caught by a customer and I told them something. I don't really remember the circumstance. Was for a motion graphics project. And I think I told them something. And then when something else came up, I told a different story. And I was like, yeah, man, fuck, if he remembers what I told him last time. And it was one of these little, what you might think is a harmless thing. But at that moment I was like, I got to fucking stop doing that. Like I got to just tell the truth all the time. And so I just made a commitment to like never lying about anything and not telling any of that bullshit. So I was like, if I forget to do something, that's what I have to tell them. Or if I drop the ball somewhere, I have to tell them that. I can no longer make up these little excuses and shit. And it's just, you can do this in all aspects of your life, not just professional, but, to your friends or whatever, I had to work late, but really you just didn't want to go out or all of these things. Think about it. And if you think about it, I would say that most people listening, most people in the world probably do this. And so when I committed to not doing it, it was way harder than I thought it was going to be because it really exposed how often I was using these kind of like, I never really considered myself like dishonest, but I guess that is dishonest if you're using those kind of things. But like, I think we kind of tend to think about like somebody, if somebody's a liar, like they're doing all kinds of like real shady shit and like telling you things to try to get one over on you or scam you into buying something that's kind of a scam or telling somebody that your product does this and that just to get your money. And then I think we tend to think that those kind of lies are the real lies. And then these other little bullshit things are kind of like, whatever, we all do that. And so when I committed to not saying any of that at all, I was like, I'm going to go all in and I'm not going to lie about anything. And it took a while. I mean, like it was surprising, like how much of a sort of reactive to just bullshit somebody, because it's the easier way to get out of something than saying you fucked up. I mean, most of the time when I was finding that I was running into these issues, it was when I did fuck up. And, usually you would say something to try to avoid telling them that you just fucked up and try to avoid telling them what actually happened. And so, like I said, it was like much harder than I thought it was going to be. And then there's also like the kind of like loophole type shit that where, the words you're saying are correct or they're truthful, but you're trying to lead somebody into thinking something else. And it's kind of hard to explain that one, but I think like the traffic example is a good one because let's say you're going somewhere at fucking 9:00 in the morning. Like, I don't know, but at every place that I've ever lived, there's going to be traffic and that there's going to be traffic. So when you tell the other person like, oh yeah, I was stuck in traffic, like you're telling the truth, but you're leaving out the part that you knew that there was going to be traffic and you left too late. Like, how long things are going to take. So somebody once told me, oh, you're not lying if you're you're telling them the real thing, but you're just leaving out this part. And I'm like, that's the same shit. You're trying to lead somebody into thinking something or lead them away from the idea that you fucked up. So I was committed to not doing that either. So I can think of one example of where somebody tried to fuck with my name by using this kind of loophole thing. I'll tell like a quick story about it. So I was volunteering for this nonprofit. So I built them this really cool website, and I even was paying to host it every month. So after a while, I wasn't feeling the people. I wasn't feeling the whole situation. So I ended up wanting to part ways. And so when I did, I kept hosting the website, even though I wasn't affiliated with the group anymore. And I told them, I'll leave it up for a few months. I sent them this email, and I think I gave them some kind of timeline. I don't remember exactly. This was some years ago, but I know I gave them several months to take over the website. And I sent them all the files they needed. I told them where they could get it hosted. I sent them links, and then I even sent them several links of kind of like these simple website, how like there's all these different, like anybody can make a website nowadays, those kind of things that have like templates and, you could build websites. So I even sent them several links of that, and I gave them everything they needed to take over the site. And then I continued hosting it. I continued paying to have it hosted. And then after the time that I said that I was going to take it down, I took it down. And then it starts coming back to me that they're going around telling people, I just took the website down without saying shit and just left them high and dry and just kind of manipulating the truth. They use this kind of loophole thing. Yeah, I did take the website down and it did fuck with them, but it was because they didn't take over the thing. I gave them everything they needed to take over the website, but they just didn't bother doing it. So then when I did take the website down, they put it all on me and they left all the other shit out. So it's like, yeah, it's truthful that I did take the site down, but you're trying to twist the words to make it look like I was being a dick when I did way more than I needed to do, paying for the website and then even keeping it up and giving them all that information. They had more than everything they needed, but they took the low road, and it's, it is what it is. I mean, I don't have any hard feelings about it anymore, but I was pretty pissed at the time when it started coming back to me that they were saying that. So the purpose of me talking about this is I want to encourage everyone that's listening to commit to never lying about anything and just see how it goes. And you may slip up from time to time, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that it's worthwhile. And I'm sure there's some of you out there that just don't do all that kind of little mini bullshit lies that I was talking about. I'm sure there are some people that are already committed to that, but I would imagine that most of us are guilty of this kind of thing. And so when I committed to doing that, I think it was somewhere around 2010-ish, so 12 years, I don't know, it was somewhere around there. And so even now I find myself, you still kind of don't want to admit that you fucked up. And so I have a list of benefits that I've seen that I wanted to share with you. So number one thing that I've noticed is that people really appreciate honesty, and they also are surprised when they hear it. So if you think about when you do business with somebody, and I find with my companies, when you're honest about something, when you fucked up and you're not trying to like make all the bullshit kind of like, oh, we ran into some technical issues or we did this or we did that. If you just come right out and say, you know what, that's my fault. I totally fucked that up. Let me make this right for you and provide them with a solution. People are very surprised by that because that is not the typical way of doing things. People generally expect to be bullshitted when someone else fucks up. So you're going to get people that are surprised and very appreciative of this honesty. So the other benefit too is the thing I was talking about, how I felt like I kind of got caught. I don't know if the guy noticed that the story changed or not, but if you always tell the truth, then you never have to try to think about, oh, what did I tell this person? Like, so if like, for example, you were supposed to send somebody an email or something and when they asked you for it, where's that email you were supposed to send me? You were like, oh, I sent it. You didn't get it. I I don't know. Let me resend that. And then the next time you talk to them, you tell a different story. You know, oh, my email was down that day. Oh, your email was down. So did you send it? Or you never have to remember what you told them because you tell the truth. So if you fucked up and you said you fucked up, and then next time that comes up, then you don't have to remember what bullshit you said. So another thing that I found was beneficial for me was there's some times where, you know, those kind of lies that are in a social situation. I can't remember any of them, you know, I can't remember specific examples, but I think one that I've heard from outside, you know, like, I don't know, maybe I read it or something. It's like, if a guy's wife asks, like, do I look fat in this? And like, maybe she does. You don't really want to say, yeah, you know, you do look kind of whatever, you know, you wouldn't want to say that. So I actually don't know what you should do in that situation. That's a tough one. But I personally can't remember any of that kind of stuff happening to me. But what I do know is that when you do have to say kind of like hard truths, what this commitment to not lying, it does help you form a skill of being more tactful in how you deliver the truth. So we all have heard these people that are like, you know, people don't like it because I'm brutally honest and all this kind of shit. And it's like, most of the time, if somebody doesn't like because you're brutally honest, it's probably because you're injecting your opinion somewhere where it wasn't requested, you know? So I think this whole commitment to not lying, it's not so much about like butting into other people's business and just telling them the truth when they didn't even ask you shit. It's sort of maintaining your own personal integrity. And when you do that, you're going to find more tactful ways to say things, you know, so you can tell the truth, but without being a dick about it. So another thing, I think a lot of people don't understand this, is like when you lie to somebody and they're like, all right, cool, whatever. You think that you got away with it. But I think what a lot of people underestimate is how much you don't get away with it. And they just didn't want to fucking deal with it. They, you know, like as a kid, when, you know, they say, did you eat that cookie or whatever the fuck? And you're like, no, I didn't do it. And you're going in the back and forth. And then the parent just gives up. They don't believe you. They know you're full of shit. They just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And this happens in business, and this happens all the time. A lot of times I know I'm being lied to, and I just don't want to go through the whole back and forth of calling them on it, you know, because like a lot of times you can't really prove that they're lying, but you know you're being bullshitted. So the other benefit of not lying is you're not losing your trust with that person, because you may say something and they just go with it just because they don't want to deal with it, but you're diminishing that person's trust. And I read this really cool thing, and I talked about it in an episode way back when Cub and I were having conversations, and I think it was in the book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think that might have been what it was. But the guy was talking about this really cool thing, and he was saying that you have an emotional bank account with like everybody that you deal with. So whenever you do something nice for somebody, that's making it a deposit. And whenever you kind of like do something, you know, not nice, or I don't know, for somebody, you're making a withdrawal. So the idea is that you want to make as many deposits as possible. So then when you do fuck up, you know, like we all do, and maybe you hurt somebody's feelings or you do something you shouldn't have done, you know, even when you don't intend to do it, like it just happens, you know? And so you make a withdrawal, but if you're constantly making these deposits, then that little withdrawal isn't really going to hurt, you know, at that point. If you're 99% of the time you're making deposits and then you make a withdrawal, you know, they're going to give you a pass on that for the most part. So imagine the same concept, that you have a trust bank account with everybody that you deal with, and you're always being upfront and honest with somebody, and then you slip up. I think if you get used to this, you won't really slip up very often. But just given that most of us go through our whole lives kind of using that, you have that in your back pocket. Like, man, I don't really feel like getting up early. I can just tell them my alarm didn't go off. Obviously, you don't want to do that. And that's kind of the whole point of this whole conversation. But if you're constantly making trust deposits after trust deposits with somebody, and then you fucking slip up a little bit here or something like that, a little withdrawal, probably not going to affect you that much. I don't know. I mean, I think just it's a good... I think as far as the emotional bank account, it's really good. I know with my employees, if if they're constantly owning up to their mistakes and not trying to bullshit me, and then just one time they're like, oh yeah, I did that, and they really didn't do it, and I know they didn't do it, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Like, I would prefer that they never lied to me, but it does happen. For the most part, their trust bank accounts are pretty full. So when they make that little withdrawal, we can work past that. If you're constantly pulling out, if you're constantly making withdrawals, we're going to have a problem. So I think it's a good way to think about it. I got two more things. I've been paying maybe too much attention to the state of the world and how much we're lied to by the media, by the government, by people, by social media platforms, by people on social media, by businesses. We're being lied to all over the place. I mean, that's just a reality. It's pretty obvious. You can just backtrack and find all the lies, and it's super annoying. So, I mean, we need more people that are committed to doing this kind of thing, to where more people are committed to just being honest, telling shit the way it is, and not being a dick about it. I think it would help make the world better if more people adopted this more honest kind of way of going about things, and just stop with all the little bullshit, and stop looking at different levels of lies, like, it's not like I'm completely deceiving somebody and I'm telling somebody that this product is going to do this for them, but it's really going to make them sick. Like, big things like that. You tend to think of these little bullshit things, stuck in traffic kind of stuff, as not being that serious when compared to these other things. But if you just take it all and say it's all unacceptable, and you're going to be honest with everything, I think it's going to make your life better, and it's going to make the world around you better. More people are going to, like I said, when you're truthful with somebody, when they expect to be bullshitted, they notice that, and that shit rubs off on people. And it's the same thing as, like, if you start making yourself better, people around you are going to start making themselves better. If you start being more honest and upfront with people and just telling it like it is, I think more people are gonna pick up that from you and integrate it into their own lives. So for me, the number one best reason, the best benefit that I found from this is, as you do this, you cannot bullshit somebody. It forces you to be more accountable. And so back when I was doing motion graphics and stuff, all of this stuff, like, my clients never see me. They don't know what's really going on. If I'm behind on a project, or, if I'm just slacking in some area, I kind of always know that I have this kind of bullshit in my back. I should say it in past tense, because this was a long time ago. But I always knew that I had this sort of bullshit card in my back pocket. Like, say, for example, I have a deadline coming up, and I know it's not like a hard deadline, but you should always meet your deadlines. But I know it's not going to be a huge deal if I miss it, and I just don't feel like doing that project. Past tense, I should be saying this in past tense because I don't do this anymore. And I didn't feel like doing the project. I knew I could always say, I was working on it, it's taking longer than expected, this and that, technical difficulties. You have all these, like, little bullshit things in your back pocket. But if you have to tell them, hey, you know what? I just dropped the ball. I didn't make the deadline. If you have to tell them what really happened, it's going to force you to get your shit done, because you have to tell them the truth, whatever happens. So it's going to force you to be more accountable in all aspects of your life. So being late to an appointment or not doing what you're supposed to do, if you have to tell them when they call you on your bullshit, you're going to have to tell them what really happened. You're going to want to avoid having to tell them that you slacked off, or having to tell them that you decided to do something else, and whatever that is. I mean, you can think of all these different examples, but it's going to force you to hold yourself to a higher standard and make sure you're committing to your word, because you don't have that bullshit in your back pocket anymore. So that's all I got. I hope that's helpful. If you're one of the people, like many of us, that were using these kind of little bullshit stories to get out of stuff, give it a try. I mean, give it 30 days or something. I would say just commit to it for life, because it's going to make your life better and the people around you's life better. All right. Good.
Appreciate each and every one of you guys who are supporting the cause and continue to spread the love. And Yeah. Stay up.